Good evening, Ohio. James Ernest and Mark Fightmaster from UC Bearcats On The Prowl, part of the Grueling Truth Radio Network. Mark, tell us about the great week the UC Bearcats had.
I'll tell you what, man. You and I last week were convinced this was going to be a tough game. A close one way or the other. I thought shootout. I think you thought defense or struggle. Man, were we both wrong? Well, at least kind of. We were both half wrong. It was a shootout for UC, and it was a struggle for SMU. It was a big win for the Bearcats. 42-13. Came out and scored basically, 20 unanswered points in the second half. I mean, SMU got a field goal. But, when you're putting up 28 in the second half and the other team's only getting a field goal, I think you're doing pretty good. So,
definitely. We're happy with that.
Game,
I know what you mean. I was going to say, and the nice thing is Ritter, because no offense to his other games so far this year, I feel this was what we want out of him, what we expect out of him, was really what we got this game.
Yeah, I think you could say it was a breakout, which we've kind of been hungry for. But then the thing is, James, you look at it that way. In one sense, you look at it as a breakout, but then if you look at his passing, 120 yards. I think is what he ended up with at like 126. Let me see what it was.
Yeah, 126. You're correct.
Yeah, 126 yards with one touchdown. But then you look at his rushing, he ended up with 179 yards. Now, granted, 91 of those was on one play. But, this is what we wanted out of the kid. Now what's going to be interesting to see is this going to be the Jekyll and Hyde Ritter that we had last year? Or is he going to be able to follow this performance up with another great performance this coming weekend against Memphis? So, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. The good thing is Memphis's defense is not, they're not that great.
They're not what they were last year.
Exactly. And Memphis is winning games, but they're winning games like 55-50. And so it's going to be interesting. So, but looking back, it was just a great all-around performance. The defense stood strong. They did great. Buechel, I think is how they pronounce that dude's name. 216 yards passing, so he was over 200. But if you're going to hold a quarterback to 216 yards passing, and he's on the 19th ranked team in the country, I think you did a pretty darn good job.
Exactly. And with Ritter, it's not the 126 yards. It's not even the 182 on the ground. It's the two stats. It's 0, which is the most important one, in my opinion, for the interceptions. I think that's huge. Yeah, I was going to say, preventing turnovers is huge, and being able to manage the game. I know that sounds like an insult, but it's not. That's what we want.
No.
We want you to be able to do that. And then, of course, the number 3 with his big plays, because he did do 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, 3 rushing touchdowns. That's great. And you're right, man. He did not turn the ball over. And that's where he got in trouble last year. Now granted, he's got a year under his belt. So, or another year under his belt.
Yeah, this is his third, yeah.
Yeah, so that helps. So let's just see. And you're right. To say he managed the game is a perfect statement, because that's what he did. He managed the game. He didn't screw up. He didn't try to do too much. He, to use an old cliche that you've used and I've used before, he let the game come to him.
Exactly.
So it was impressive. It was an impressive game all around for the Bearcats. Obviously, I think their most complete game of the season. But also, this may be one of the more complete games we've seen them play in the past 4 or 5 years.
Exactly. Because that's the problem. What happens is they don't play the complete game, and it ends up being close, and it ends up being too much of a game.
Yeah, quite honestly, James, think back. You throw out the Boston College game last year because it was the bowl and, all that stuff. But I can't think of
And the bad weather, and the Boston kids didn't want to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they didn't care.
I can't think of a better game. The UCLA game was good, but, UCLA wasn't the quality opponent that SMU was. I can't believe I'm saying that. But, this has got to be one of the more complete performances of the past 4 or 5 years.
I agree with you. And then, like we were talking about, him being a manager, well, as long as he's got Dokes to manage, he's going to do great. Because, Dokes really makes it so much easier for him.
How nice is it to have that running back that you can just turn the ball, hand the ball to him, and he's going to get, 5 yards a carry. They get 20 carries for 105 yards. I mean,
exactly.
That's production that I think if we had been told in the off season that we could pencil Dokes in for 5 yards a carry, I think both of us would have said, yes, please, thank you very much.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, we'll totally take that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just an all-around great performance. Now, let's see if Fickle can carry that over, because we look ahead to Memphis, But, actually, before we look ahead to Memphis, though, we got to say, Bearcats, 7th in the polls, I believe.
Yep, 7th in the poll. That is phenomenal.
So, and no matter what you think of him, Lance McAllister today put out some predictions, or some bold predictions, and it didn't have UC in the playoffs, but I believe it had UC in the New Year's Day Bowl playing against Florida.
Nice.
And that would be interesting, and that was a projection, I think, from maybe CBS Sports or maybe Jerry Palm. I can't remember who it was, but from what I remember, it was a pretty good, pretty consistent, somebody with a pretty consistent track record of being correct. So we'll see what happens. It could be a lot of fun, if that's the case. But hey, I'll take the number 7 ranking.
Oh,
and
definitely.
Be happy with that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it'd be even if UC does go undefeated, it's going to be a tough call either way.
Yeah, it really is, just because Clemson, again, is dominating, and say what you will about the ACC, and I'm not an ACC fan, and the fact that, they can say, we've got Notre Dame now. I'm sorry. Notre Dame, to me, is consistently one of the most overrated teams in the country, and is what it is. They get by on name a lot. So you got Clemson, Alabama. They look to be every bit of what was advertised, and then, you got, and I'm a Buckeye fan, but I don't want to sound like a homer saying this, but they went out and took care of business this past Saturday, and they look solid. So it depends on that 4th spot, and I just don't know. I just don't know. It'll be interesting.
I know what you mean. Actually, you mentioned Notre Dame. That'll probably be who it comes down to.
Yeah. Notre Dame. Ever since Brian Kelly went there, but even before Brian Kelly went there, I didn't like him, But now that Brian Kelly went there and all that, I think Notre Dame benefits from a major TV contract.
Oh, yeah.
A major network for themselves. And then also, a lot of people still like Notre Dame because Notre Dame used to be good all the time. And now that they have a little bit of success, everyone's like, they're good. I'll tell you what, I would take Desmond Ridder 6 times a week and twice on Sundays over Book at Notre Dame, their quarterback. And maybe that's just me, but I'd rather have what we have than what they've got. So, sorry, rant over.
No, that's all good. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I was going to say, I understand why you would be upset about Brian Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was neat that we actually are the same in both polls. Because usually, one has it higher than the other, that kind of thing.
Yep.
But, seeing both of them being number 7 is pretty cool.
Well, and I think I've said this in the past, I put so much more credence into the coaches poll, because even though the coaches may not fill it out themselves, and they may have a graduate assistant do it or whatever, at least the coaches are saying, okay, here's who I think should be where. And they're the ones that know football. Yeah, much more so than the writers. So it's good having them in the same spot in both polls.
And, with UC being that outlier that they're saying, about to say the other one that would be in it would be BYU, because they're undefeated as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. And I'm trying to think who they. Yeah, BYU. Somebody had said, well, not Oregon because they lost, I think, or they haven't played. No, they haven't played yet. But
Oklahoma State maybe. They're undefeated as well.
You know what? I think that's the one. I think Oklahoma State may have been it. I knew it had an O in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So, but I'll tell you what, man, it's just, I don't know. You watch these games, and this is a crazy year. This is a crazy year. And people aren't as prepared as they were, and all that. It's going to look a little bit different I can guarantee you probably 3 names that'll be there. And who knows what the 4th will be. So.
I know what you mean. Yeah, because Ohio State and Alabama and Clemson. Yeah, I mean those pretty much you can write them in right now.
Yeah, that provided nothing crazy happens.
Exactly. No field goals getting blocked or anything like that.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of people are saying this week for Ohio State is the biggest game of the year. I guess Penn State, but then Penn State's coming off a loss to Indiana. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the double was overtime or double overtime. I can't remember. I think it was just 1 overtime. But so Indiana pulls off an upset over Penn State. Now all of a sudden Indiana's ranked like 23rd, 22nd in the country. Yeah. So there's always a lot of jumping around in the polls. So we'll see. It can always be crazy. So
definitely. So moving on to Memphis. What's your thoughts on them?
Well, I touched on it a little bit. They score a lot of points, but it's because they have to. The South Florida game, they won 50-49. I think was the final score. They have to put up a lot of points because right now the defense isn't doing much. I think when I looked earlier this evening, Memphis has like the 9th rated offense in the country. But their defense is in the 40s or 50s, and so UC's got a chance.
The least amount of points they give up is 24 against Arkansas State, 29 to Temple, 30 to SMU, 49 to UCF. It's So the good news is we have a strong defense. They have a strong offense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see it going again like this SMU game did, maybe close to halftime, and then UC opens it up. That's what I hope to see. If that happens.
Because of their depth. I think UC's depth is the big issue, and the reason why they're able to run so many players out there and keep them fresh, I think that's what the main difference is.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it's going to be a UC win. The question is, what's the final score? Who knows? Again, it's going to be one, in my opinion, one of 2 things are going to happen. I don't see this being a defensive struggle again.
Yeah, I agree.
I see this being another high-scoring game, or it ends up like the SMU game. Maybe UC's defense can expose Memphis's offense. So maybe we are in the range of a 35-10 win for UC. I haven't even looked at what Vegas puts the over
it's
under
at. Yeah, the over unders. Oh gosh, what was it, like 50 something? I think. 50.
Let's see. Yeah, 55.5, and UC's a touchdown favorite. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think the under, because I think UC's defense can hold Memphis. But we will see. I think UC is going to score their points, and I think their defense is going to show. I think their defense is going to come in and say, you know what, we're going to shut you down like we did SMU, and there we go. So again, I'm going to stick with like a 35-10, maybe a 28-7, somewhere in that range. We'll see.
I agree with you. That sounds right. Unfortunately, what doesn't sound right and is out of the control of coaches and players and all that is no fans.
Yeah, and that's the way UC's going to do it for the rest of the year. But again, James, we were talking off air a little bit. The COVID numbers are going up, and I'm not going to turn this into a political discussion or a mask, no mask, anything debate. I think probably the right decision, because I guess Governor DeWine was saying that a lot of the spread is from the community, and things like parties and stuff like that. I think it's a good decision just to keep everybody safe. It does suck though, because this is the year that you would want fans, the way UC's playing.
Exactly.
I guess, what was it? I think it was. You know what? I was listening to the Ohio State game this past weekend on my way home from my son's game, and they were talking about how Ohio State had just made a big play. I think it was when Seven Banks picked up the fumble and took it back for a touchdown. And they're like, we're back live at the shoe, and this place would normally be rocking. Well, it wasn't, because they're doing the same thing there. You're playing in front of friends and family.
Exactly.
So I would love to see Nippert on a Halloween Saturday night at 7:30. I think is that when they play 7:30?
No. They're
No,
noon.
they're noon.
Yeah, they're noon. Yeah, I was gonna say now. I like your plan. That'd be a cool game. Unfortunately, though, that would prevent me from trick or treating with my son. So I am glad it's a noon game.
Yeah, you know what? You know what I did? I got the Ohio State and UC games mixed up. Because Ohio State is 7:30 on Saturday night against Penn State. But I mean, even a noon game. You're talking number 7 team in the country at UC. Place would be packed.
Oh, definitely.
And, man, would it be loud.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, can't happen. And probably for the better, at least as far as the health of the community goes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I went to a game, about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was on Halloween night. It was UK versus Tennessee. And their fans were all psyched up. They were ready to go. And then they forgot they were playing Tennessee, and that did not go so well.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big night. That would be, I don't know. It would just be awesome to see the stands full.
Oh, definitely.
Because you know they would be, and the Nippert would be jumping right now.
Exactly. It'd be a great atmosphere. Well, I was going to say, it sounds like it's going to be a wonderful game. It's going to be on probably the normal stuff. It's probably like 700 WLW.
Yeah, I can't. They don't really have it on. Well, actually, it's on ESPN. Yeah,
ESPN. Yeah, so it's not even on the Deuce. It's not on College. It's not any of that. It's actually real ESPN. So they got
It's on the mothership.
Exactly. So that's a premier game right there.
Yeah.
And then of course you can always listen to it on the radio on 700. But yeah, to be on ESPN. I mean, actually, it's looking like some of the rest of the games. I mean, Houston is either going to be ESPN or ESPN2. It just depends on ECU games and ESPN2, and then from there they haven't decided yet. But yeah, that is phenomenal that they're getting airtime on the main show.
That all follows that little number 7 in front of UC's name.
That is true. That is phenomenal. that they're getting their respect and getting what they deserve.
Yep.
Those young men have been working hard. They deserve it. Well,
they do.
For James, Ernest, and Mark Fightmaster, this has been another episode of UC Bearcats on the Prowl.